I am back, and I haven't been making videos on this channel because I've been involved in another channel, okay? It's a long story, but let's get right to the point. So, this video is for people that want to get better at programming. And you may, and I don't know, the problem is everyone is at a different level. So I could be talking to someone that's never seen a computer before, wants to learn programming, or someone that's been doing it for 20 years and wants to get better. So I've been doing it for 20 years, mostly web development. I've done tons and tons of file processing, input, output, database. I've kind of done it all. I've done XML, Java, not JavaScript, Angular, of course C#, SQL, Linux. I've done tons of stuff, just little bits and pieces, but mostly it's been business logic for companies, okay? So I guess that's kind of my point. You have to do whatever the business needs. So you work for a company, small or big, they're almost never going to need you to do something that you already know how to do, okay? So, and I always say this, it's very easy actually to learn to program, but the hard thing is learning what to program. So you'll get into a company and you'll think, I know how to program, right? I can do it, I can do anything. But then they're not sure. They're not sure what the data to give you, they're not sure how things are going to be. They're not sure what things are going to look like. There's a lot of questions, like no one kind of knows what they're doing, to be honest, in some ways. But over time, if you work through things and you work with the business analyst, you work with the business, eventually you get things done, okay? So my point is, yeah, you can learn to program, and what you should do is pick a core. Pick something that you want to be really good at. Pick something you want to be really good at. And for me, that was .NET C#. I had the opportunity to work in a company that was a consulting company, and they said .NET C# is where it's going to be. As soon as it came out, we got training, and they were right, because it does so much. It does ASP.NET web pages, it does database interaction, it does processing, it does file, it can do anything. It's an operating system. Windows is. .NET runs on top of it, of course. So it was a very valuable skill, and there's been tons of jobs, and there still are, in C#.NET. So I graduated in 1997 with a computer information systems degree, and my grades weren't that great. They were in programming, but not everything else, because I basically didn't care that much about everything else, the geographies and geologies and all that. So to get my first job, one of the things I did was I made my own experience. I went out and created a classic ASP. There was no .NET back then. I made my own shopping cart. So I made my own web page, and I made my own shopping cart, so you could add things, you could subtract things, and you could... I don't think I took money back then because there was no PayPal or anything. So anyway, I created a proof of concept. Then when I went in an interview, I showed them, hey, here's what I did. So I had something to show. So that is one thing you can do, is make your own experience. When I was going through college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I heard they paid well in programming. So I got into the CIS program, and I started doing very well in those classes, because to me they were easy. You could take your work home, you could get it perfect, you'd hand it in, you know you got an A before you handed it in. In the math class, if you would get to the test and they'd say put your books away, I would forget the formulas and stuff, and I would get a C, B or C or D, right? So I did very well in programming. To me it was logic, everything made sense. And if it didn't make sense, it wasn't really your fault. It's because something was hidden from you. So what I did was I made my own experience. I was interested in web pages, and at that time in 1999, they were very mysterious. There was no Google. All there was Yahoo, and it wasn't very good. And it was very difficult to find any information out, because right now you've got tons and tons and tons of information on the internet. So you almost don't need college anymore. I mean, I'm still glad I went, but you almost don't need it anymore, because there's online training out the butt on the internet, okay? So I made my first experience. I created a web page. I figured out how to do it. I don't even remember how, just by asking people and being in college. I made my first web page and shopping cart, okay? So I had something when I went in an interview to say, hey, here's what I built. I could talk about it. If I had nothing, no experience, not great grades, it was going to be harder to get a job. So my first piece of advice is to find something you like and make a project. Okay. Try to think of a problem. Solve some kind of problem. think about something like somebody has 10,000 files and you need to get them into a database. That's a problem that you can solve. And you start thinking, well, I've got files. What do I do with files? Well, first of all, you read them. How do you read them? Go type in a language you like. How to read files in Python. How to read files in C#. And there'll be examples out there. So you solve the first problem, and the second and the third. When you make your own first project, you're going to learn tons and you're going to get something done. So that kind of brings me to the next part. So you don't have any experience, and I'm kind of getting off topic here because this was supposed to be about how to get better at programming, but it kind of bleeds into how to get a job also. So the next thing you can do is volunteer your services. So you can go to your local church, your local housing administration, or whatever. You can go to your neighborhood, the city council or something, and just volunteer to make a web page for somebody. Volunteer to help out with them. Volunteer to create a newsletter or something. Find some way to get the experience. You can kind of fake the experience, you know. You can volunteer and then say, oh, I did this for my church or my community or whatever, okay? So make some experience. That's my first bit of advice. All right, another way to learn programming, a very good way to learn, is to find an open source project. There's thousands and thousands of open source projects out there. Go to GitHub, download them, and just start reading the code. One of the first things I looked at when I wanted to learn C# was I found a blackjack program. A program that would, you could play blackjack with it, but it was written in C#. And so I opened it up and I looked at it, and I knew how to play blackjack, so looking at the program, I was able to see what they were doing. A lot of the open source projects are going to have pretty darn good code in it, and you'll be able to learn from that. Go find something you like, download the code, and just start looking at it. Run it. If it's not running, ask why. Send an email, say, how come when I build this, say, I'm a newbie, how come when I build this, it's not building? What do I need? And they'll tell you, oh, you need a reference. You'll just be learning just like that. Okay, so look at open source projects and look at the code. That's my second bit of advice. So this is not in any general order. I just have these random thoughts, so just bear with me as I go through this. So I want to talk about, if you're learning programming, you need to find a core language that you're going to be an expert at. And what I chose was C#. Okay? One second, I'm going to get a book for you. Okay, now I'm not saying run out and buy books. Don't do that, because books are not a great way to learn. They're really they're pretty boring, and they're not very interactive. I buy them because I'm a professional, okay? And I believe I can learn anything from anywhere. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm just saying, don't run out and just buy these books just because you saw me do them, because they're expensive. I do them because I have a good reason. But anyway, my point was, you want to learn something very, very, very well and then build off of that. So pick something valuable. I chose C#, .NET, and I just bought this book not too long ago. I'm still learning. I've been doing this for 20 years. I learn every single day. And that will get to another point later where you learn something new every day. But anyway, so pick something core that you like. Pick something that you also want to look and make sure there's jobs in it. Okay, so you might love Linux, and you might love playing with it and making games, and that's great. But are there jobs in it? Are you trying to get a job? Are you trying to be a great programmer? I'm not going to answer those for you. You answer them for yourself. Okay. Answer those questions for yourself, but go and make sure there's jobs. Don't spend tons and tons of hours on a language and then find out, oh wait, no one hires so-and-so, right? Even though you love it. By the way, this is a interesting book. Haven't got a chance to find it, get through it much yet, but okay. So you have a core language and you're going to learn it, and you're going to go through all the tutorials, go on YouTube, of course. Find the basics course. You can find basics on anything, and you're going to look at open source code to get better. So anyone can do that at any level. You can open up a source. The problem with that might be if you're very inexperienced, looking at source code, it might be overwhelming. You might look at this code and go, oh my God, what the heck is this? So don't be overwhelmed though. If you happen to look at something, it just means you haven't learned it yet, okay? So we've made some experience. You're reading some code. You're going to work for free if you need experience. Install Visual Studio, Visual Studio Community if you want to go that route, and .NET Core. Okay, so there's this idea of these guerrilla courses, and they're kind of new to the scene, right? Now, I actually really like the idea of a guerrilla course. They're a really great idea. I even want to put one on myself if I had time. And it'd have to be organized, because clearly this what I'm saying right now isn't that organized. But so the guerrilla courses, they sound great. I think they're wonderful. The problem is, don't spend tons of money, because a lot of that you can do on your own. You could create your own guerrilla course. You could just like check into a motel room, go to your mom's house, close all the doors, get on the internet, and just spend 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day just learning. Read a little bit, code a little bit, take a little break, back and forth for hours. You can make your own. You don't have to have them. Yes, it's great if you have the money, but if you don't have to have it, okay? Make your own guerrilla course. And that means it's just like learning a language. You immerse yourself in the country, and you're kind of forced to learn it. So you can do that yourself, although the course would be great too if you have the money. I heard somebody made a comment that it was $13,000 for a guerrilla course. I don't know, man. That's an awful lot of money. But then again, $13,000, you'll probably make that up within a year, with extra money, or less than a year if you got a great job from it. Okay, another thing you can do is, one really good way to learn is, especially like if you want to learn hardware, go to a garage sale or something and get a really cheap computer, and then fire it up and delete everything off of it, and then install Windows, install Linux. Find out how to do that. Go to Google, how to install Linux. They will tell you step by step. You'll need a little thumb drive. You install the bootloader onto it. You put it in the thumb drive. You have to go into the BIOS. All that stuff. You will learn a ton if you build your own computer, and I mean from the software. Now, if you want to learn hardware, the same thing. Back in 1999, I wanted to build a computer, and there's one guy that had a webpage, how to build a computer. And so I got a motherboard, I got a case, a computer case, I got a video card. I learned tons from that. It's not that hard. Most of it is plug, screw in, plug. It's all plug and play. The hard part really comes when you have a problem, or when you need to install the operating system. So my point is, get a computer beater. Don't be afraid to destroy it, because you can always reinstall Windows. You can always, if you're going to be a networking guy, you got to learn how to image things. You have to make an image of your computer. Install a virtual PC or something. If you don't know what virtual PC is, it's a program that runs on your computer where you can install another operating system within it. So you can have Windows running and have another Windows inside this little application. And if you screw something up, you can blow it away and create a new one, and you haven't ruined your computer. So, alright, you're going to need high-speed internet to watch videos. You're going to immerse yourself. If you can, of course, find a mentor to help you. That is a really hard thing to do, but if you can, find somebody to help you in your school or something. YouTube videos. Alright, I make no money from this, but there are tutorial websites out there. There's one called Udemy, udemy.com, and it has very well structured courses, and I buy them to this day. Sometimes they're $12, sometimes they're $20, but you get 6 hours of class in Udemy for $15. I mean, that is amazing. That's why I say, when you're gonna go do a guerrilla course for $13,000, you know how many courses you could buy online for, and those courses are really good too. It's not just like it's not like a YouTube video where people kind of just throw things in, kind of like this video. Sorry about that. But they're very well organized, and you will learn a lot. I learn a lot on Udemy. Sometimes if I want to know something, bang, I'll just pay $15, I'll just buy it. And then you can speed them up too. So if you're watching the video, you can go 1.5 times, 2 times, or sometimes even faster than 2, and you can skim through it. And if it starts to get complicated, you slow down, so you can skim right through those really quickly. So Udemy, YouTube videos. Alright, now at my level, I know a lot of things, or I may have forgotten a lot of things, but there's still some concepts that are mystifying to me, and there's still tons of things to learn. So what I did, was I decided one thing a day. I'm going to learn one thing a day, one topic. And at one point in my career, I said, I'm going to learn interfaces. I don't understand interfaces, but I'm going to learn them. So every day I'd spend 20 minutes. And the next day, if I didn't feel like I got it, I would go back and I would just type in interfaces. What's an interface? And then I would open up a console application and I would create an interface. I created my own project. That is the best way to learn, is if you take a topic and then you don't just read about it, but then you go and do it. So run an application, make it work, copy some code, paste it, change it, ask questions like, what if I took the interface name off and tried to compile it, and you'll get an error. Why? Ask yourself these questions, challenge yourself that way. So take a concept, apply it, code it, take any concept. Like, for example, let's just take an example. Oh, extension methods. I did this yesterday. I had forgot what extension methods were. So I created a simple console app and I copied and pasted from somebody else's code, and I did an extension method. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's how you do it. And I'm like, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that because I forgot about it. You see? Take something and apply it. So 15 minutes a day, that's a minimum. When I say that's for a busy person, right? You're super busy. You're already programming all day or something, and you kind of get into this grind where you don't feel like learning. Force yourself 15 minutes a day to do something. Those people that don't have a job, you need to be just constantly, hours and hours a day. Program. Actually do it. Find a group of people and create a project. You know, when I started making these programming videos, when I pick a topic, I teach it. You also need to teach. If you can teach something, you will really learn it well. I know it's a strange concept, but if you have somebody else that you're mentoring, you will be kind of forced to teach them. You'll be forced to learn so you can teach them. So if you can teach somebody, that's also a great way to learn. I don't know. To summarize, I would say make your own experience, volunteer, solve a problem, find a problem and solve it, create a website. If you don't know how to create a website, just Google it, and there's step-by-step. Find open source projects. Research unfamiliar popular terms. So a lot of times you're in a job and people start talking about this program or this word or a concept that you don't know. You keep hearing this word, Angular. Angular. What the heck is Angular? It's time to learn it, okay? The more you hear these buzzwords, for Angular, I went to Udemy and I bought the class and I went through it and I just did what he said. You create a project, he tells you what to do, and you create a project. Then you start asking yourself questions like, man, what if I did this? What if I did that? And you can kind of manipulate, and that's how you learn also. Reading is good. It's a good supplement, but I wouldn't place a lot of faith in books. It's kind of the thing you would do while you're traveling. I use books as kind of I'm kind of interested in just reading today. And I don't look at a book as a great way to learn because it's so static, it's not dynamic. I don't know, maybe I'm starting to repeat myself here, but alright, anyway, I think that's it. Make experience, find a core language, build a computer, destroy a computer. Don't be afraid to destroy a computer. I've destroyed lots of computers. My first computer in college, here's another story. I got a Gateway computer, spent a lot of money on it, I was all excited about it, and something wasn't working. I think the drivers for the modem weren't working. I was trying to connect to the school, right? And so I took it out and I reinstalled the drivers, and then I broke something else. And then I said, let's screw it. I'm going to reinstall Windows, or I think it was Windows. Yeah, Windows 3.1 or something. It didn't work. I installed the drivers again, and the drivers all night long. I was up for 20 hours, just kind of frustrated because I wanted it to work so bad. But I learned so much too. I learned how to install drivers. I learned how to wipe everything out. I learned how to install an operating system. But I wasn't afraid to break it. You know what I mean? You cannot be afraid to break it. And I mean software-wise. If you install something and uninstall it, back then it was a lot more difficult. But I did learn a lot that way also. All right, now this is the final thing I'm going to say. And unfortunately, the absolute best way to learn is to actually have a job. You will learn more on your first job than you will in 1 month than you will in a year of school, because you will be doing 8 hours a day and you will have to know it. You will have to solve problems, and you will learn tons and tons and tons. So, besides everything else I said, having a job, you will learn more in your job than anything else you can do. Unless you make a business or something. If you were to make a business and it would be kind of like your job, right? So it's kind of a down thing to say, but you will learn more in your first job by far, and than anything else you can do. It's kind of a sad thing to say, but you kind of have to have a job to learn. Really, really learn, because that's when the problems come. Is that it takes years. It actually takes years before you really start to feel confident. Not everybody, but it was around the 5 to 7 year mark where I started feeling like I wasn't clueless. I started confident, like I now can do anything. I can figure it out. And it takes years to get there. So don't feel bad if you're not great at first, okay? It might take, you're going to learn tons of stuff and you're going to get in a good pattern. You're going to know a lot after your first year. But guess what? After your 5th year, what did they say? They said something like 10,000 hours. It takes 10,000 hours to master anything. I don't know how many hours I have, but I've got 20, I probably have close to 20,000 hours. And I feel like I've mastered it, but there's still, it's always changing. All right, and I should add one more thing. Today's world is different in that I know C#, I know how to create web pages, I know how to do business logic and databases. But in today's world, in today's economy, I'll walk into a company, and I'm at one right now, where they use tools. They'll throw a tool at you. We use another tool. Here's another tool. We use Jams. I've never heard of Jams. They use Boomi. Never heard of Boomi. They use OnBase. What's OnBase? Guess what? You got to learn it. You got to learn it. You got to find a way to learn it. So what do? You open it up and you start researching. How do I learn? You Google it. Are there tutorials? The tutorial is the first thing you do. You open up the tool that these companies use, and they're starting to use more and more tools now. It's not just coding. Coding is kind of taking the back seat. You might code here and there, but these tools are becoming more and more powerful. There's ServiceNow tool. There's ticketing. There's all kinds of tools now, and they'd rather just buy it if they can. But the good news is often these tools don't work perfectly. They don't work that well. So you'll use the tool, but it'll fall short, and so you'll have to come in and create a program to support it. For example, we use this tool that brings files in, but it doesn't know how to parse certain data types. So we have to write a program in JavaScript to parse the data type to make sure it's a valid social security number. You see, the tool does some stuff, but it doesn't do enough. So the custom coder, and that's where you come in as a coder, a programmer, you'll come in and you'll make that extra program. Okay, I hope this was helpful. It was a little discombobulated. I plan on making more videos. One of them is how to get a job and interview. I've had a lot of interviews, so I'll work on that. I'm sorry if this video was a little discombobulated, but if it's not discombobulated, I probably will never make it.